So how do you build relationships with future customers? Well, I believe that before anybody will give you a credit card, you have to give them something first. And oftentimes people love when they, number one, feel smarter. Number two, feel like an insider. And then number three, if they're first to know something.
Hey, I'm Armando Leduc, producer, film actor, and owner of Leduc Entertainment. I've chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Here with another one, Spaghetti on the Wall. Ladies and gentlemen, Jasmine Starr is in the building. How are you?
I'm doing great. I mean, with all these sound effects, I mean, we have a studio audience of about 10,000.
That's it. That's all I have. I have 2 buttons. I mean, I have more buttons, but that's all I'm going to focus on, right? Otherwise, I'm like, focus on that, and I need to be focused right here. And I've got ADD, so I'm like, hey, right here.
It's okay. People say I talk fast, but I just say people listen slow. So if I just keep up this pace, I'm going to keep you dialed in fully with your attention. So let's go.
I love it. When I listen to audiobooks, it's always on 2x.
That's right. Do you know now on Loom, you could watch things at 2.5x? You're welcome.
Hell yeah.
Hell
yeah.
You're welcome. They get it.
Oh,
they get it.
Yeah. It's like, all right, come on, get to the point. Because you're going to say ums and ahs and like and right. So
okay, so Armando, the first person to say on this podcast was the other person, a margarita. So let's go. There it is. I got my margarita already.
I didn't say I just said So my crutch word is so and like.
Okay.
I like to avoid but I do say like and right. But I will keep that in mind. Okay. So Jasmine Starr, a entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, public speaker, coach, consultant. I came across Jasmine in an email.
Another margarita.
I know, right? You're going to get drunk in the next 2 minutes. So I came across your email, and I said, wow, this is really cool. I like what she's doing. I love how you're doing your emails, and I really want to get into that.
Great.
Because it's always, when you get emails, it's hard to you're just filtering through BS, and then some emails like yours come out, and you're like, wow, okay, click. I like this. This is actually sticky. This is actually grabbing my attention, and so I really want to get into that. But I got on this email list, and I said, I need to get this lady on my podcast because I really want to get into everything that she does. And as we talked before the podcast, it's so crazy because what you do is what we do, is sort of looking into a mirror. So I'm sure a lot of the things that your philosophy on things is really going to resonate with the people here, because
awesome. If
they're listening to this, they're already, on board with that philosophy. So Let's start from the beginning. Where were you born? No, what,
I was like, we're going way back. We'll go way back.
Give me your story.
Okay, so I like to keep it as short as possible so that we give people the most value in the shortest amount of time. And whenever I talk about myself, it's not all that pertaining to the person who's listening. So what I want to do is just simply use this as an opportunity to lay the foundation and then say, am I like or unlike this person? Which is the very first marketing and branding principle I would ever really put out to people who are listening, is people want to do business. They want to buy from, they want to invest in people who understand them, see the world the same way. Now, we could say that we don't do that, but in fact, we do. Oftentimes, even if you were shopping for a car, you will be approached a few times by somebody who wants to sell you something. But you, on a subconscious and perhaps conscious level, want to do business with somebody who you say, how long are you going to keep me in that room? Until you have to go and ask your manager to see if I can get the price that I want. And so what we do when we walk into a car dealership, a clothing store, when we buy from somebody online, we want to say, how close does this person know me and what value am I going to derive from them? So in a nutshell, I'm a first-generation Latina, I'm a first-generation college student, and I'm the first in my family to ever go to law school. I am also the first in my family to drop out of law school when I realized my mom had a relapse with brain cancer, and it kind of just shocked my world because she was 50 years old and I was 25. And I thought, if I die when I'm 50, am I doing the thing that I actually want to do? And the answer was, no, I don't want to die a lawyer. And that was legitimately my thought when she had her second brain surgery. It was New Year's Eve. And when we went to go and visit her in downtown Los Angeles, USC Norris Hospital, we didn't spend time talking about the things that she had done. We spent the most of the time talking about the things that she hadn't done. Like she hadn't visited Austria. She had never flown business class. She didn't write a children's book. And I thought to myself, my God, I don't want to be on my deathbed talking about the things that I didn't do. So I quit law school. And then in this juncture, I'm like, what do I really want to do in my life? So my husband, based on my mom's health, he proposed to me and we got married 3 months later. So we're high school sweethearts. And I said, I'm going to finish law school. I have an Excel spreadsheet of my life and boom, boom, boom. This is how I'm going to do it. Mommy's going to handle it. And then all of a sudden life just comes up and slaps you across your face. And it's just like, what do you actually want? Do you want the letters after your name? Do you want some accolade? Do you want to move from the east side of Los Angeles to the west side of Los Angeles to prove that you finally belong? Get out of here. What do you want to do with your life? And I looked across the table and I said, I want to be a photographer. And he's like, okay, but you don't even own a camera. I was like, I know, but if I got one, I think I can kind of make it work. And it was the first time in my life that I had ever put my desires on the line because I was unfunded, uneducated, unconnected, and all the uns in the world. So that Christmas, I unwrapped a very basic camera from Best Buy. And I said, I can go back to law school. I was on scholarship at UCLA Law School. And they gave me 3 years to go back and claim my scholarship. And I said, I can go back. If this thing doesn't work. So I'm going to give myself 1 year. 1 year to try and fail so I can look back and be like, remember that one time that you tried it? Well, that first year of business, we did $100,000, which blew my mind because as the daughter of an immigrant, my father had 5 children. My mother didn't work. They were not educated in any way, shape, or form. And $100,000 was not what my dad made for his family of 7 in over 3 years. And here I am, his daughter, making it in 1. It was kind of like, oh my God, what just happened? It's like I'm taking everybody to Claim Jumper. And everybody's going to be ordering Sprite and Coke because we just kind of hit it. And so that was the first time that I realized you could put your mind to something and be so unqualified and still make it happen. And so then after I started doing that, I started creating content to really support my business. I had no money when I had started. So I was like, I can create content, point people to my business. And then other businesses started saying, hey, can you talk about, at the time I was starting my photography business, and people started saying, hey, she's getting traffic to this blog. I didn't even have a website because I couldn't afford a website. So I was like, there's this free blog. I can just kind of change the header. I learned basic HTML coding, I can change a photo, I can change a header. And I had used a blog to book my first $100,000 in business. And then other businesses were like, what are you doing? So I started creating ways to talk about other businesses on my blog. And then they had said, I got to a point where I said, oh, this is not for me. I don't really feel like it's a fit. And they said, can we hire you to consult on our businesses for the marketing and branding component? And then I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I did that for a few companies and I realized this is not the business that I want to scale. And I took a big risk. And in 2015, I had launched a digital course. I was like, I'm going to see if I could share online because this is something I believe can scale. And we did that. We scaled it to multiple 7-figure revenue streams for the business. And when I say we, my husband and I are business partners, high school sweethearts, business partners, life partners. He is the better part of this business and nobody really knows that he exists. And from creating courses, then created a membership. And on the back of creating a membership, I realized that there was friction between us integrating with large social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And then in 2021, debuted our first tech stack completely built on our own for Social Curator. And I then found myself being the CEO of a tech startup. And every iteration of my career, I didn't know what I was doing and I had no business starting that business. And then I did. And so I've become a champion of people really saying, this is this seemingly impossible dream that I have no business doing. And then I'm like, I believe you can do it. Because on the back of desire and chutzpah and dedication and consistency and simply deciding I'm going to get punched in the gut as I build this business and yet still I rise. Yeah, maybe perhaps we could do this dang thing. And so that's what I do today.
That's amazing. And so this tech that you own helps with social media platforms. Explain that a little bit.
Yes. Okay. So we're really focused on the small business owner. So we like to look at our technology. Dottie is our social media manager and she is customized for every user who comes in. So when somebody joins Social Curator, they build out their profile. And then what you would do is we have thousands of caption prompts that follow a very specific methodology of how we believe engaging content gets posted online. And then for people who are like, yeah, I really wish that I could have real templates, or I really wish that I could start building my newsletter. I really wish that I could figure out a positive Facebook group strategy. Well, we have massive amounts of what we call action plans. This is everything you need to market your business. You can learn it, deploy it, and now you can also schedule it on our platform. We have community classes, we have accountability challenges, we do live coaching, we do mindset moments. So this is like the marketing hub for small business owners and or small business owners who are doing it with perhaps one or two VAs on their team. So definitely small. Most of our users are doing less than $1 million, and so this is like the step that we want them to build for consistency before they start building out their own in-house marketing.
That's awesome. And so you saw the need. The pain point is that people know that they need to be on social media. They know that they need to be consistent. Mm-hmm. The problem is the creative end of things, because that is the heavy lift. Mm-hmm. It's always thinking about how are we going to create this content that's going to move the needle, which is what I loved. And let's get into that. I love the emails.
So can we get into that? But can I add a caveat? Because I think that there's this assumption that I have learned over the years. So you just listed the pain point and then the solution. But what I strongly realized about 3.5 years into the journey was people say and people believe that their pressure point is the creative. They believe that it's another thing to do at another point of their day, and marketing their business feels like a second full-time job. And I would say 3.5 years ago, I would probably say, I'm going to bet the farm on that assumption. And I did, until I realized after investing millions into our tech platform that even if you decrease overwhelm by a 70% margin, it's the mindset behind the overwhelm. That even if we gave people all of the tools, the tool, the overwhelm, the consistency is what's stopping people from marketing their business. It's themselves. It is a subconscious, like back of the mind narrative of being like, this feels like a waste of time. Nobody's paying attention. I feel so stupid. I am not, and then fill in the blank. I am not young. I am not skinny. I'm not a girl. I'm not a guy. I am not rich. I'm too black. I'm too white. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have a private jet. I don't vacation in the Maldives. And I don't live in 90210. Therefore, nobody cares. And so I'm like, dang, if I got to get through that before you actually log in, I got my work cut out for me. So what I strongly now talk about from the beginning, from the get-go, is you got to know who you're dealing with me right now. This goes back to the very starting of our conversation. Am I adding value to you? Because if what I'm saying to you right now is rubbing you the wrong way, good. I don't need you to like me. I don't need to be your next best friend. I need you to trust me. And if you trust me, then we can do business. And here's the thing, like people are like, oh, why are you so sharp-edged? Why do you sound like you're yelling? I'm not yelling. Tengo pasión. We live our lives too short to care about people who will never buy the thing that we're selling. Let me tell you something. That girl in high school who hated you then, she probably still hates you now. She ain't going to buy your thing. Your first cousin who's always growing up on you is like, tapped you on the head and say pobrecita or little thing, like I got you. Like, no. She's not going to buy your thing anyway. So we're letting people who would never be our customers stop us from putting up the content to attract our customers. So if we're not on the same page now, then you could just stop the podcast, find somebody else who's going to speak your language. But I'm going to spit the truth because I have worked with, navigated, and seen over 40,000 entrepreneurs go through our platform, pay, and many of them see what it is required to pay the price of success. And let me say, it's not even the price of success. You have to pay rent on the success you want in the future. And some people say, that's a price too high. And then other people don't. It is for the people who will put their nose to the ground, work for 14 months in darkness and silence before they have the right to give me an opinion about what's working in their business. And people hear that and they're like, oh, the water got too hot. What I want to do is just complain about how the algorithm is always changing and I don't have time. Listen, you will find reasons for your success or you will find excuses for not having your success. I put it out there. People say, yes, this is for me, or no, it's not. But at least now we're on the same page.
Spit hot fire.
Hey, wah, 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 wah.
Wah, wah. I wish I had that button. Wah, wah, wah.
Listen, we need some laser horns, okay? Like I look at you and I see Mr. Worldwide, but you need the laser horn, okay? You need the aviators.
No,
and
I
then
know.
You need
Hey,
the
let me
horn.
tell you something. I know, right? I was out and about shooting content. And somebody was like, "Hey, are you you look like Pitbull." I'm like, "Nah, I'm Rottweiler. I'm Mr. Nationwide." You know what I'm saying? You can call me that. So no worries. I sing too, and you know what's funny? The guy's name is Armando.
No,
Like Pitbull's name is Armando.
Oh
so,
my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So there's some things, and I believe we have the same birthday. I think it's January 15th. I think so. I'm gonna have to check, but I think it is.
Okay.
Somebody can verify. Anyway, I love it. I love the energy. I love what you're talking about. Let's talk about, I really want to get into the email because it's something that people are like, just kind of, they wave it and they're like, it doesn't really work, but it really does work if it's done correctly. How did you get it to work right?
So I've gone through many iterations. And so I always just want to start with the truth so people actually know the starting point. So I got serious about in my business around 2010. And when I say serious, I was making money online, but I didn't have an online business. There is a difference.
Yeah.
There is a difference of somebody who has a business and they have the ability to buy something online. But when you switch the order as an entrepreneur, you start thinking, how do I get people to buy online first and build a business that services that? And so 2010, I start thinking around, well, how do I sell to customers who've already bought from me? And then how do I cultivate relationships from people who would want to buy from me? And somebody had said, you should start a newsletter. And I just dropped some basic HTML code on my blog. Yes, on my blog, still putting it there. And I was just like, if you want to sign up for a newsletter, just sign up here. But it was in a sidebar. I never had calls to action. I just was like, okay. And so then I would send a newsletter whenever I remembered. And it was something that I kind of tapped around. And then Armando, on the back of creating content on my blog, and then this is kind of like my early iterations around 2010, 2012 is when I started on social media, and I wouldn't even talk about signing up for my newsletter. And then people would be like, where's your newsletter? And I'm like, I should probably create a short code like jasminestar.com/subscribe. I wasn't even thinking long term. I was like, subscribe, like as if it was an RSS feed. I was just as if it was an RSS feed, but I just kind of put it out there. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I had built a list to around 30,000 people not trying on the back of content. And I thought to myself, okay, there's something here. What can I do with this list? And so first things first, I didn't start sending newsletters like every week. That was too much for me. So what I started to say is like, okay, I've been building this list for like 3 years without any intention. There's a good chance that there's people on this list who don't even want to be here. So I said, I'm going to clean up house. I don't want people who don't want to be on this list. And so I started sending a series of 4 emails saying, this is what's going to come. You're going to get an email every week. I'm going to be talking to you about what I'm doing in my business, which is photography. I'm going to be talking about the things that I'm learning, and I'm going to be talking about how I'm building my business. If this is not of interesting to you, here's the unsubscribe button. I was actively trying to get people off the list because I really wanted to say, who's here and what do they want to hear from? But better yet, I wanted to reverse engineer. I wanted to work backwards. What do I want? I want to make money. But I don't want to make money by selling something. I want to make money on first creating a valuable relationship exchange before I ever ask of something. And so that's going to be the first takeaway, because if you build a newsletter list with the intention of making money from it by selling, I think you're really missing the point and it won't work. But if you build a newsletter list with the intention of creating a relationship that over time builds trust, and that trust can turn into currency, then that's like the long tail. But when people hear that, it's just not sexy. Because what I could and should say is, Armando, do you know that every user in your subscriber list is worth, if you're in like tech space, around 2 or 3x of the LTV of your average user? Or what if I said, in basic terms, if you have an online business, every user on your list is about worth $1.75. What if I said that? And you're like, wow, well, I have 1,000 people on my list. I could be making, yes, you could be making that if you learned how to leverage it right. However, you could be making a lot more if you build a relationship with that person. So how do you build relationships with future customers? Well, I believe that before anybody will give you a credit card, you have to give them something first. And oftentimes people love when they, number one, feel smarter. Number two, feel like an insider. And then number three, if they're first to know something. And so what I started doing is creating these newsletters. And I'm gonna talk about like what I've learned about where I am today, because I'm pretty sure that you found me rather recently. And when I say recently, in less than a year, can I like safely assume that?
I've been following you for a while.
Via newsletters?
I that's what I'm saying. I don't remember how I found you, but you're in my inbox and I get your stuff and I like read it.
Yeah. Okay. So I send a newsletter once a week. They're all written by me. They're 100% where I'm at. Now, when I first started, I was using my newsletter as a division of my blog. Like these were updates. This is what I was working on. This was a sneak peek behind the scenes. And then what I did, and I can't tell, Armand, if I'm being really honest, I can't tell if it was the best decision, but I started seeing a lot of data and analytics that people were doing way more consumption on social media than they were with email. Specifically, once like the iOS updates like dropped and you couldn't actually track open rates and click-through rates as previously as you could in the past, I started seeing a shift. And so I said, I'm going to get my newsletters and I'm going to make them so small. I want to make my newsletters readable on somebody's mobile app. I don't want to have them scroll. So it became a challenge on creating bite-sized, valuable, relationship-building content. I did that for about a year and a half, and for some people, it really resonated. But what I realized was that these short little dopamine hits, they were not converting the way my long-form newsletters were. And I was like, big lesson learned, huge lesson learned, that I was trying to make it easier for people to read, which is great. But I was making the time spent with me much shorter. The more time somebody spends with you, which is why like YouTube is killing it for brand extension and relationships, because if somebody's going to watch a 17-minute video with you, hot dang, podcasts kill because it's like you're whispering words into a listener for 47 minutes. That's amazing. Now, a newsletter is different because it's a person's reading cadence and then they hear your voice in their head, even better than the podcast. And so what I started doing about a year and a half ago, is I really shifted it and I went back to, I'm going to be giving valuable information that, yes, looks like what I'm doing in my business, but is really focused on the person I want to work with. I wanted to make it less about me and more on like the human struggle as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are my target demographic. If I was still having my newsletter and I wanted to go after yoga practitioners, I would really be looking through the lens of, what does the average practitioner struggle with, desire, or hope for? And so you have to ask yourself, what does my dream customer struggle with, desire, or hope for? And every time I'm looking through that lens. And so today is the day that I write my newsletter. So at the time of this recording, it is Wednesday. I send my newsletters on Tuesday. So I spend Wednesday, Thursday thinking, ideating, and writing it. So these newsletters are literally going out very soon from when I wrote them. And I simply look at what happened the week before in my business, because I want to be real. I want to share the ugly. I want to give a front row seat. Why? It's an insider. It makes most readers feel smarter because they're learning on the back of my crappy lessons. And I'm like, good, please don't make me suffer for no reason. Like, I'm going to share with you so you avoid this. And people really value that. And so I simply look, I'm like, what was the thing that I learned last week? That's it. I just ask myself, what is the thing that I learned last week? And everybody always learns a bunch of things. I make a boatload of mistakes. So I'm like, which mistake do I want to talk about? Which is going to be the most valuable lesson that I could share? That's my whole process. And so every week I share the process. Now, here's a crazy thing, is that I'm sending these every single week and I'm not promoting. I'm just sending them. And so when we move into a promotional phase, and that's exactly at the time of this recording where we're moving into, I have been sending newsletters for weeks, not asking, but for months, not asking for anything. Give. And then I'm going to say, this is what I'm writing today, is I'm taking you on a journey of a brand new offer, a brand new masterclass, a brand new marketing mechanism, and conversion. This is a behind the scenes. I'm going to be sharing exactly what I am doing. And I'm doing it via newsletter. And I'm like, if this is something that you would like to do in your business, make sure that you're moving my email from your promotions folder into your primary inbox so that you're getting behind the scenes. And then what's going to happen in that? I'm going to send an invitation to the masterclass. I'm going to be sending an invitation to this revenue bootcamp. We're doing this cool 3-week program all for free. Why? Because I'm benevolent? I'd like to think of that. Am I strategic? I'd like to think of that. But one thing I know is I could build a relationship. And if I could build a relationship and then I present them with an offer that's in alignment, and here's the thing, I don't have to sell it. I literally don't. You don't have to sell jack squat. You have to build a relationship and say, does this offer look like it's something that your business needs? And then somebody says yes or no. That's it. And so you'll start seeing me start shifting that strongly towards a promotional mechanism. And it's a slow burn. You're going to get a front row seat behind. Hey, I'm actually talking about this revenue bootcamp. Join the revenue bootcamp. So I'm just presenting it. Do you want to do what I would do? Great. Join it, repeat it, make it better. So that's the strategy as of right now.
I love it. I'm all about it. I'm ready to buy.
Ah,
I'm ready to buy.
You're my first customer.
Send me online courses, right? No, I'm serious. That's once again, spitting hot fire. I love that. I love that. I need to
Mr.
write that
Rottweiler
down.
coming in hot. Okay.
Rottweiler, I'm telling you, I'm gonna write down that idea of like sending out your lessons. So I'm gonna start incorporating that because I hadn't really been doing that. It's all like advice, but not through the lens of, hey, this is what I learned. This is how I failed.
Good.
And that's cool. I like that. I like that idea. I'm gonna get personal real quick because you're Latina.
Yeah.
Why is it that the Latin community can't seem to get to a point where it's more of a supportive community, right? Like I'm finding, and I live here in New Orleans, right, that there is this, it's this feeling of us like against everybody, and there's this, it's very judgy, it's very mira esa que, you know, que sabe, and what she know, and why, you know, why is she trying to be all whatever, you know? And it's this sort of, it's that pulling down of the people not as supportive. Are you seeing that?
Well, okay. So okay, this is where half the audience is going to be like, I get her, and the other half is going to be like, what in the world? I am highly logical. And so when you're like, do you see that? My first reaction would be like, I'm going to assess by feeling. But feelings are fleeting, feelings change, and my feelings about any situation matter jack squat because you might have a different feeling, right? And so what I want to do is I want to deal with facts and I want to deal with logic. And so when you say, oh, do you see that? And then my reaction is like, do I feel it? I'm like, let me just go back to what I know is true. And what I know to be true is that Latinos specifically, and you see this also in Native American communities, is we are tribal. But it is part of our culture. And when we say tribe, we mean our family. And to anybody else on the outside, how would you define your family? Most people think of the nuclear family. But how Latinos look at families is that everybody who's your dad's age, they're your tío, they're your uncle, right? And like when you say, oh, that's my cousin, it's like, no, it's not. Like other people look at that and be like, that's actually like your third cousin removed, not by blood, but by marriage. And so we're just like, we look at this as our nuclear tribe. And what happens in tribal states and foundations is that everybody plays a role in the tribe. This is how tribes survived. The strength of a tribe was how clearly people stayed in their roles. And then what happens is that if somebody in the tribe changes their role, it means, and it creates a vacuum for somebody else in the tribe to fill that as this other person is deciding what role they want to take. There are the hunters and there are the gatherers and there's a basket weaver. So we go back to our long lineage of that. And so anytime somebody changed the structure of the tribe, it was in the tribe's best interest to keep that person in their role because it kept everybody moving. Now, what we see specifically in Latino cultures is, and this is what I've experienced firsthand, is that when somebody wants to change their role in the tribe, so I'm going to be very real, I start going to therapy. This starts meaning that I have conversations of what are the origins of these feelings, or why am I telling myself these stories? And then all of a sudden, mira, OC, Orange County, she moved to Newport and now look what happens. She wants to talk about her childhood. Oh my. Oh, mira esa, mira. And so what happens is on a conscious and subconscious level, the tribe wants to keep it the same. It takes somebody very courageous to say, that was my role. And I would love to work with ever in my family to say, this is who I'm becoming. And I understand that when I become something else, you have to change. So what I'm telling you and inviting you to do is please look at my change and ask yourself, I don't want to work like that with you any longer. And I'm okay with that. That is a courageous declaration to make in a nuclear family and in an extended family. And Latinos have to do this, not just nuclear, but beyond that, which is why so many people say, stay small. Don't rock the boat. And then from an analytic academic perspective, there is this program called LBAN, Latino Business Association Network, and it's done through Stanford University. If you have a business that is making over $1 million, or you have an investment more than $500,000, you are eligible to apply to this program, LBAN. Google it. LBAN and Stanford. I went through the LBAN program in 2022. It was the best thing I could have done because I actually have a rubric and studies that show academically the whole reason this organization exists is so that they can create, not just for entrepreneurs, but specifically for Latino entrepreneurs. And what they found out is that Latino business owners get funding at 1%. And Latina business owners get it at 0.05%. So if we don't feel that we're supporting each other's businesses, it is because, and also an explanation, is that if we're eligible for 1% of funding, we want to make sure that we're part of that 1%. It's human nature. It's less cultural. It's just there is a slice of pizza, and then you just claw to get it. And so what the LBAN program is really trying to dismantle is what is the systems of beliefs and why do Latinos believe that they can't supersede $1 million? Why can't we build the next $1 billion company or organization? Now, before people are listening to this and be like, this is particularly a brown conversation, no problem. I totally get it. But the more that we're educated about Black, white, Asian, Haitian, Croatian, the better off we are at serving our clients. Do you know that Latinos are the demographic that are the most in debt, but spend the most? Probably works in correlation. And Latinos are the fastest growing demographic in the United States comprising the majority of consumer power. I don't care if you're purple. If you want to build a product or a business, tailor it for Latinos. They're allegiant. They're loyal. They love sharing their favorite brands. And they're the fastest growing demographic in the United States. The more you know.
No, hey, that's fantastic. Thank you for the lesson, by the way. Do you speak Spanish fluently?
Not as fluently as I would like. I understand it fluently. I speak it with my daughter. My daughter actually is going to be 4 in January, and she doesn't speak English. So she will. Oh, wow. She will. She absolutely will. And I do get a lot of heat for it. And I just have to understand that, she's going to get it when she's in school. My husband's first language, he didn't learn how to speak English until he was in the first grade. But I'm very thankful for that. And she has this deep desire. She already wants to learn French. And so to me, I'm in her own time and in her own way. And I believe that, sometimes we look at things from an ethnic perspective. It's like America is our lingua franca. Hell yes, it is, and I'm about it, and I believe that to be true. But it doesn't mean that other languages should not be introduced. You travel anywhere in the world, and people are speaking 3 languages. I'm simply trying to make my daughter of the world, and I'm simply trying to give her the best opportunities, and the more languages she speaks, the better off she will be.
Do you do any of your content in Spanish?
No.
Do you know why?
I feel like I'm very intimidated. It's an honor thing. It is truly an honor thing. And it actually, let me back up. This is a story I'm telling myself to keep myself safe. Because I remember watching for the very first time a Latina in a movie, Jennifer Lopez, when she starred in Selena. And there's this very famous scene where Selena is born in Corpus Christi, Texas, and, she doesn't speak Spanish. But all of a sudden, the music that she's singing is in Spanish, and so she hits the road and she hits South America and Mexico, and they're speaking to her in Spanish because they assume that that's what she speaks, and she's literally learning on the go, and she says, yo siento muy, muy happy. She had forgot the word feliz, and all the Latinos are like, feliz! And they're so supportive because they're like, you're just trying. And I'm like, why can't you just embody that? Why can't you just get up on a stage? And there was a company, which I won't say, they were going to pay a gorgeous amount of money for me to go to the DF, so Mexico City, to give a presentation in Spanish. And when I told my in-laws, they were like, we're going to build out your whole keynote. We're going to translate it. We're going to put it up on screens, and all you have to do is read it. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm like, we get into Q&A, and I understand the question thoroughly. I understand Spanish, and then I speak it like I'm in 4th grade. And that makes me feel intimidated.
You speaking to me because same. Somebody was like, Armando, you got, such good content and you could really help the Latin community. And I'm like, man, I know what I want to say fast in English. if I have to start thinking about it in Spanish, then I feel like the credibility goes down because I'm not speaking as fast.
Oh, Armando, but here's the thing.
You know,
There's so much less pressure for us to do that. Like, our job is to stand in like the divine gift that we've been given, and like you and I possess this ability to get a group of people around us. Like a small group of people, a large group of people, we can get a small group of people around us and we could be disseminating information in the way that they are digesting it. So then we high five ourselves. And on the back of AI, the technology is here now. The technology is slow. I think in 12 months, the technology will be flawless. So Mr. Beast was creating content and realized that he could hire the voice, like the gentleman who does the voiceovers for Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man franchise, he actually has the same voice. And so Mr. Beast hired Spiderman to do the voiceover for all of Mr. Beast's videos. And now he has, I think, 5, 6 channels around the world that are taking his videos and he has a voiceover, right? And so all of a sudden I started doing, so 2 years ago, I'm like, I can find somebody to do dubbing over in the largest. Now, Spanish is one of the largest, most commonly spoken languages, whereas Europe, it's bifurcated around what languages. But all of South America, starting in Mexico, all the way down, they speak Spanish generally enough to understand it. So I thought to myself, man, I could over-index in there. I am Mexican and I am Puerto Rican. Like, there's this thing that I can.
Are you Mexican and Puerto Rican?
Mexican, Boricua.
That's cool. I'm Puerto Rican and Portuguese.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm all messed up.
Okay. There's the last name because I was like,
no, but Leduc is from my father's side, who's Puerto Rican. Valada Se Castro is my Portuguese side.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so my French, the French ancestors were all like, they're going to cut off our heads. We've got to go to the Caribbean, and so they went to the Caribbean to leave.
Legit.
You know,
Okay.
and I was born in Germany, so I'm all.
Okay.
My dad was in the military, so I moved around. I'm all. Army brat.
Leduc. You sound so
Leduc, so-
fancy. You sound so
It's
fancy.
so fancy. Rottweiler.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Har.
Hold on, Armando. Before we go back,
Please.
AI. I was on Instagram and I saw an app that you would be able to download. And so you record a story and then you pick whatever languages that you want to be exported from that. And it was really slow. Like, I did a 60-second story and I didn't get the file until the next day. But I'm like, literally in 12 months, I'm going to be being able to create content simultaneously and then create sub-accounts that are really written in that language for that demographic. And I think it's going to be such a scalable opportunity moving forward.
I agree with you. It's on my to-do list this year to start creating content that bolsters the Latin community, because I feel like you're right. There's this belief system, and I had it, and my mentor, who has a multi-million-dollar business. He's Latino too. We grew up together, Puerto Rican guy. He poured it into me, and he's like, look, I also had these limiting beliefs. And when I started mentoring with him, and it unlocked it, and I was like, oh my God, I can never go back, right? The threshold, once you cross that threshold and you understand what the abundance is, then it's just like the world.
Yes.
But we, as the Latin population, don't really understand it, and I grew up in a household where my dad was in the military. My mother, she didn't go to school. So the idea was, hey, stay safe, do the safe thing. What are you doing? And I was not in that way. And I grew up in a way where I was made to feel like I was dumb and something was wrong with me, because I just wasn't good at school. I didn't really follow in everybody else's footsteps, and I wasn't going to sit in line. I was like, this is dumb. Like, this is not what I need to be doing with my life. And hallelujah, I was able to live where I am where I'm supposed to be. And so I would love to create more content for that person that feels like they are not, that they're not being heard, that they're the black sheep, that they feel like there's something wrong with them, and go, hey, there's nothing wrong with how you think. There's a really good book called Driven, by the way, and it talks about people that have this mindset, the mindset of like entrepreneurship and just different, and it was like, wow, when I found the tribe, where it was like, man, I know that there's other people out there, visionaries that are out there that think differently. And I was like, man, there's Latin people all around that just don't have that information. And if they could have it, man, the things that they could do.
That's beautiful. And like the thing that you've identified is less an ethic or cultural consideration. Being the black sheep or considering dumb or learning in a different way or possessing power that's not traditionally like accepted by the canon of education, that is so profound outside of culture, ethnicity, demographic.
Sure.
And the minute that you can change the language in which you're creating content is the chance, it's a land grab. Like, I feel like I'm looking in the future and I'm thinking there is something so powerful here. How do I build to where the puck is going? In hockey, you always want to play the game where where's the puck going, not where is the puck now. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're like, okay, keep your eye on the puck and the puck's in front of you. The puck can go faster and get you to where I want to go, but you have to know where it's going. And I think that the puck is going there. So, you know, creating content, asking yourself, what languages do I want to focus on? What parts of the world? What continents? Like, in my content, should I, you know, be making every so often like a reference to Buenos Aires or to DF? So note, DF, and then I followed it up by Mexico City. Early in the podcast, I had said those two things. What am I doing? I'm I'm verbally signaling that like, you're local when you call it DF. Like, you know that. Like, that's where my father's from Mexico. And so when you say DF versus Mexico City, you're signaling to the people who get it, she gets us. And so I think that there's small nuances that you could be putting into your content that starts resonating in different audiences.
Very cool. I love it. Hey, look, I know you're I know you're on a crunch time, but I want people to know where they can find you because your stuff is fire. I'm a follower. I'm a subscriber. And I'm all about it. So let people know where they can find you.
Thank you. So I'm going to give a shout out again to the newsletter since we were talking about that, jasminestar.com/subscribe. But if you would like to join our revenue bootcamp, I'm going to be working with people for 4 weeks. It is free. You simply save your seat, jasminestar.com/launch. We want to walk people how to launch their offer in a new way so that they double the revenue in 60 days.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
One of my favorite interviews.
You're one of my favorite interviewers. Like we didn't know each other, so we hop on, and I'm like, oh, okay, he plays with fire too. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the same. It's the same thing. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. We speak the same language, and it's like when it happens, it's amazing.
It is.
And
Thank you.
It was just really good stuff. I thank you.
Thank you.
I want y'all to make sure that you follow Jasmine Star. I'm telling you, she's just full of fire, as you can tell. It was just such gems dropped by the second. So I was just like, man, can I take notes? And we're like, oh, I recorded it. So I just take notes.
And I only had 2 margaritas. Look at us. You know,
I
there
know,
it is.
right? Well, I'm sure I said a few times. I got all choked up for a second there. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll see you next time. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment for all of your digital marketing needs, social media, podcasting. We got you. And you can watch Spaghetti on the Wall anywhere. You're probably listening to it right now. And we'll see y'all next week.